Anyways, I was talking to my father today, and he was asking if game, or if dating, or any of this other, whatever word you want to use, if it was taught as a game, then shouldn't there have to be winners and losers? And shouldn't there have to be a competitive aspect where, somebody wins, somebody loses, and the object is by nature a outcome dependent type of situation? I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And he says, well, if you're being outcome dependent and there has to be winners and losers, then isn't that a horrible way to teach somebody who's getting into a relationship dynamic that is supposed to be win-win? And I said, yes. Yes, indeed. And so, we spent the next hour and a half trying to figure out how to do a win-win with dating dynamics. So the problem isn't that guys don't want to be respectful of women or vice versa. The problem is not that we can't create win-win type of situations. The problem is that when people are afraid to be hurt and people are super scared, then we tend to protect ourselves at the expense of other people. And a lot of guys who hire me are drawn into the marketing of never be lonely again, or don't be rejected, or kill your fear of rejection, because that's like the thing. If I was to send out a message that was like, respect people, be yourself, and make a better version of you that's going to be more attractive, just come to my course, nobody would show up. Hey, figure out how to be a better version of yourself, work on your self-development, and then you'll be good enough to, you'll feel good enough to give off the right vibes, and you won't smell of desperation, and you'll get all of the choice that you want, and then you can calibrate and learn how to have good relationships that are solid and fulfilling. Nobody would buy my product, nobody would come to my courses, and I wouldn't be able to help anybody. Whereas if I say, kill your loneliness, kill your fear, never get rejected again, everybody's like, yeah, I'm gonna come see that seminar. But then, if they were to show up, and I was gonna be like, if I'd said, hey, use the 3 magic words that are gonna trick women into bed, and they're like, yeah. And then I gave them, 3 magic words, they would invariably screw it all up because their head's not in the right space, and that's not how human interactions work. But they would buy the thing, and I'd make money. If what I do now is I say things like, oh, never worry about loneliness again, have a constant stream of women in your life. Great, yeah, and that's true. But it appeals to the kind of people who don't want it to be true in the way that it actually is true. They want their fantasies. Why is there an ice cream truck this late at night? I have to see this. It's 12 o'clock. There's an ice cream truck here. That's weird. So if I said come to my seminar and learn how to see the matrix by constant repetition and testing, so that you can put yourself through the bullshit, kill all of your bullshit beliefs because you see the actualness of what happens, and then you can settle down and realize this shit doesn't matter that much anyway, nobody would buy my fucking course, and I would be broke, and nobody would get helped, and everybody would think I was a shitty coach. So, how do I teach, do the hard work in the social realm, and be a good fucking person, and you will attract all sorts of people to you, and then all the techniques work, without saying, and attract people who actually need it? Because the people who actually need my service are people who are desperate and unable to do these things, mostly they're unable to get consistency. And so we sat around wondering, about how all this shit should go down, because intrinsically, looking at game as a game can lead to objectification, right? Not necessarily sexual objectification in the misogynistic sense, but the objectification of another human being as a means to an end, rather than having feelings and emotions and complex things that you have to deal with and crash them up against your own. And sometimes you're going to agree and sometimes you're not. It's much easier to sell and wrap your head around, because it's a simple concept. Oh, we're just going to learn the tricks to get women excited, right? Whereas lots of different women are different, and what excites them is as variable as they are. If we can simplify and put it into a bunch of different groups, then it's easier to talk about and it's easier to teach. So, how do we simplify the concepts of human communications, which can be complex, and not lose the essence of caring for another human being and dealing with their emotions in real time in the process? That is the question. So my father is talking about how we need to keep everybody's feelings. And, I give the argument that, look, the interactions that I teach are short and not too invasive. So it's not like, guys are going to go up to a girl and offend her or sexually assault her. They're just going to go up there and she might be annoyed for a second, but ultimately she's probably going to forget, the whole deal because either it happens to her a lot and it just kind of runs in the mix of things. But the interaction is so short, and it wasn't like an assault. There was no real offensiveness. The guy just rolls up, he gives her a compliment, he asks if he can get to know her a little bit better, and she says yes or no, and she says yes, then he carries on. And she says no, he leaves. That's how that works. And that's how normal people should do it, It's the same kind of thing we were talking about with Marshall last week or in Toronto, when a sister went off on following people around and nagging them, right? At the end of the day, it's not that important. But is there a way that we can do this, practice, get in front of girls, get guys who have no experience in front of women to have new reference experiences, and yet still respect the women's feelings and wishes and all that, whatever, right? Because, there's a dark side to it, right? Most people have this autopilot response that you got to get up, that you got to get through, and I can get through it a lot of times by being awesome, and so can most of my co-coaches and a lot of the guys who are good. But the guys who are bad at it can't get through it, and the whole process is pretty laborious for everybody involved. But the only way to get good at it that I know of is to keep putting yourself in front of people and to have more and more experience. You can't read your way or conceptualize your way into dealing with you can't read your way or conceptualize your way into being better with women, except by getting in front of women and practicing with women. Right? You can't read your way into getting better at dating. You have to go on dates, and then through careful observation and then calibration, you get better at dates. That's how that works. So if you're not willing to screw up because of yourself, we say that's dumb. Everybody screws up, it's chill. But if the argument is you're not willing to screw up because you don't want to offend somebody else, you're going to keep yourself out of the dating pool and you're not going to be good at it. So we need to combat that and see if not bothering people is actually a worthy goal. Because, in the long, I've been teaching this stuff for 4.5 years. And this is the best way to do it. Constant repetition, killing your fears, and getting in front of people and getting reference experiences. And if there's a better way to do it, I told my dad, I'd be rich. But if we found it, it'd be like the holy grail of dealing with everybody's fears and at the same time respecting everybody's imaginary boundaries. And at the same time getting a lot of reference experiences. So that's that.